Honestly, I was drawn to acting because I was wounded and wanted approval, and I found it.
Well, I tried to deny it for a very long time. There wasn't a lot of acting opportunity, and my parents really wanted me to go to school and study something sensible, so I took psychology, but throughout, the arts kept finding me.
Performing in front of an audience is one of the most magical experiences that you can have. The reciprocal kind of energy that exchanges in a performance.
This is such a timely doc short. Various actors discuss what it was like for them when the pandemic hit and live productions were closed. Being from Toronto, I am familiar with the work of many of these actors, productions, and theater locations shown in the film, which makes the film all the more real for me. I am an actor too, so I completely understand the sentiments of this film. Not surprised about the stats on how much money live theater lost during the pandemic. I thought the editors chose excellent commentary from the actors involved. Let's hope, as this film does, that live performances will soon come back in full force everywhere. Excellent
job. The effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the theater industry is something that I always had read about, but I really appreciated this opportunity to kind of put faces and stories to what I've read, and hearing a lot of these stories about different theater professionals dealing with the pandemic was extremely powerful and something that I feel like a lot of people can relate to. And I thought the structure was really smart and showed just how both the industry and the individuals had to adapt to the situation, you know, from the lights going out and the industry shutting down to moving to online spaces was super interesting. Yeah, overall it was great. I thought some of the jump cuts were a little distracting, and some of the editing was a little bit quick. But overall, I think it was, you know, a super important story and an interesting story. So great job.
A great evaluation of the experiences of working actors in theater during the time of COVID-19, which we are still currently in, but especially those early days, the difficulty, not only in terms of economics of it all and the money of, you know, can you afford rent, this and that, but also in that loss of live theater, we lose a part of our culture. And we see that for the different attempts to kind of hold on to it during the pandemic, virtual things worked for some people and not so much for others. I think it was great that there was a lot of honesty in that respect. But this is another lesson definitely learned through the pandemic, the importance of live theater and live performances, and how we should hopefully be able to honor them much better moving forward once we get past this all.
I think is a really timely film for all of us who are still living through the pandemic. And in the micro, it shows the individual perspectives and experiences that these few actors have had, having their livelihood so radically changed or taken away from them entirely. And in the macro, I think for me, it brings up the idea that we all have something that we have lost during this time, or that has really shifted in how we're able to express it or do it. And for that reason, we now appreciate that thing in a different way, and going forward will not take it for granted. I think that that's something I and many people can relate to from having lived through this pandemic. Another thing that struck me about the film was when they mentioned the idea that the show must go on. I think another universal point that this film makes is how we as a society have had to reevaluate a lot of our industries and our habits and the structure of our organizations to better prioritize health and self-care.
Discusses the incredible impact that COVID and the shutdowns had on Toronto's theater industry, and how the rug was really just ripped out from under actors and directors, but also front of house, back of house, all of the thousands and thousands of people that it takes to put a show together. And, you know, I think that it's important to listen to the voices and see the faces of the people that it has directly impacted. When your job relies on large groups of people coming together in one space, that's the first thing to go, unfortunately. So I just think that it's really important to listen to and have empathy for the people who've lost their jobs. And the arts is so important. And I think that pre-pandemic, people really took it for granted and didn't appreciate what a big, important, impactful, significant space it takes up in their life. And post or during the pandemic, so many of us have turned to arts for, for consolation, for entertainment, for just getting out of our heads because we can't get out of our homes. So I think that when you are an artist and you're somebody who creates for a living, when that's taken away from you, a part of you is taken from you as well. And it's hard to adapt. And some people have adapted very well and others haven't. But really, truly nothing replaces doing it in person, doing it live on stage, performing for audiences. So, I hear the voices. I see familiar faces, some people that I know personally in this documentary, and I know that it has not been an easy time. So much love and empathy goes out to my fellow actors, and I really hope that we don't need to make more films like this going forward, because hopefully we will be in a better place in the future.
The film that really touched me on a personal level, not least of which because the very last thing me and my family did before COVID hit and everything shut down was we went to a live performance of Hamilton. But it's also because I know people in the theater industry. I mean, there was a time in my life when I really wanted to act, and I would enroll in theater camps. And I knew they had it really bad during the pandemic, but I didn't realize to what extent. And you really hear the pain in the actors' voices, where they're talking about, thinking they would only be gone for a few weeks, to talking about getting COVID and performing on Zoom and being out of work. So basically the same natural progression that all of us went through. Even though they're actors, you know how genuine that pain is. And all the statistics that they flash throughout only back that up. So having seen this movie, I'm really praying for the theater industry. I'm happy to see the shows have reopened. Let's hope they never have to go through this ever again.
At the conclusion of it, it was mostly about processing what we've been through with these folks. There was no easy answers to anything. And I've seen a lot of these sort of pieces, but this one just seems to be very good about that. Everybody's talking about what happened, what they're going through, where it's going. There's still a lot of uncertainty, but there was kind of a psychological resolve to being able to deal with it, but there's without having hard solutions, So that was something I really liked about that. Everybody that appeared on camera did a wonderful job in communicating, and it was just very well directed and edited and scored. The pacing was excellent. Everything about this piece worked really well. And like I said, the overall through line of it was definitely kind of unique to these type of pieces about the pandemic. And I really appreciate that. And I'm glad to see that some of these shows are reopening, but I know, I understand the reality of it. But I hope that, as with everything, that just the arena of live theater changes for the better in many ways at the end of all of these troubles and at the end of this current turmoil. I know a lot of things have been affected, across society in this way. I know this, the one lady addresses, there's this show must go on mentality, whether you're sick, whatever goes on, and hopefully that will change. And I remember that. I remember going on stage sick myself so many times. And maybe that doesn't have to happen anymore, that was an interesting point made for sure. That really stuck with me. But anyways, this is a great piece. I hope it gets out there and gets seen. It was a wonderful job by everybody, and it's very meaningful. As you can see, it's very meaningful to me. I'm going on and on. But yeah, no, I hope this gets out there and gets seen. This is a very important message.